Welcome. It's the Matic. It's the illest bird in the land. Welcome back to Matic. What is going on? Thank you so much for commenting, liking, subscribing. Let's get into today's new video. Today's new video is on a movie review, Sound of Freedom. So first off, what I thought that was interesting to the film, we are introduced to the characters in a way that I haven't seen for like a human trafficking movie. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, there are some out. It was very interesting. It showed you the real real raw version of how they get these kids. In this case, it was more so this woman was scouting out kids, but the way she was scouting them out, she was pretty much one of the people that was big into the human trafficking. And these two kids and other kids get kidnapped. And that's how the movie starts off. We see what happens. And Ethan, I love that the father goes back to see what happens to his kids to find out something is wrong. And that's part of this film. I like that we're introduced to the other main character, which is Tim. Tim is this homeland security agent that's pretty much getting rid of the pedophiles and also human trafficking for a living. That is one job I would not want to have. I know there's a job for everybody, but that would not be the job for me. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And I think that movie showed it very well. Tim going home, you know what I'm saying, to wife and kids. But on top of that, he's dealing with seeing these kids get kidnapped. Also, them being online and you know, in an inappropriate fashion. It takes a lot for someone to do that type of job. Like, there's no way I would want to do some job like that. And we see him wanting to cry. So I love that Jim, the actor that plays Tim, he brings the character to life. You'll be able to empathize with him. You may even want to tear up because, like I said, it is kind of an emotional type of film. It works. Now, the next thing that I liked about this film is nothing like Taken. I get, you know, that is another movie that deals with human trafficking, of course. I'm not taking away from Taken. I just want to keep it 100 with you guys. I feel like this film, Sound of Freedom, gives a more realistic approach of what happens to these kids. And Taken is a little bit more animated when it comes to it. So, yes, you know, when it comes down to it, Taken is more fictional based. This is based on a true story. So we see a little bit more of what human trafficking is within the film. Now, let's talk about pretty much Tim. Tim also, when he is in this film, he's shown empathy towards these kids throughout this film that he rescues. Like the two siblings, the brother, he's empathizing with them. You know, this kid's been emotionally scarred to some degree. And I love that this film doesn't just like shed like darkness on the kid. It sheds light on what happened to this kid and the things that he went through with human trafficking, even the other, his sibling as well. So it doesn't shy away from it. But for this film to be PG-13, I am glad that they kept it PG-13 because honestly, there are scenes in this movie where you're going to be like, okay, that's what's going to happen next. You're going to see like a foreshadowing with certain scenes and it works. You don't have to like, you know, have in the back of your mind, this was going to happen to them now. It's more so like, okay, we know what's going to happen to them and everything just by a couple hints. You know what I'm saying? They give you hint scenes. And that kind of works for the film because I felt like if this would have been rated R, that would have been too much for me. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It probably would have made some people sick to their stomach to see them reenact something that is such like a nasty and a cruel thing when it comes down to it. The other thing that I thought that was really that worked with this film, it was a decent thriller drama. You know what I'm saying? The drama we see Tim having to go home and sit in front of his family and his wife, you know what I'm saying? Meaning his kids, I should say, and having to deal with this. You know what I'm saying? Like that takes an emotional toll on you because this is your job for a living. We also see Tim struggle with his boss, them having their issues within this film, because Tim is not getting the job done like he should be, and the boss is kind of getting on him about it. Definitely interesting. That's how it is sometimes when you're at a job. They're like, "Hey, you gotta get it done like at this time and point," and we see there is also tension with it. Very it works. For this to be a low budget movie, it works. It works. I mean, I'm not against films that are made with low budgets. I like low budget films. I like high budget films, but it works for a low budget film. It's not like, oh my god, it doesn't work for a film. It does throughout this film. I also like what they did with the film. We saw how Tim was able to get into the inner circle of human trafficking thanks to a former human trafficker within the film. And we see how he's able to get other people to come into that circle and to make money because he's trying to rescue the kids, but they don't know that. There's even a scene where a politician, I love how Tim was able to convince him to help get these kids out of the situation that they were in. The most crazy aspect of this is you see human trafficking and certain things I was unaware of. Them branding the kids with these tattoos. So when they kidnap these kids, if they have them for like a certain amount of time, they are branded with a tattoo. They're either abused. They do show, like I said, glimpses of it, not enough where it's gonna make you barf or throw up. We also see them being child labor, meaning slaves, to produce food and everything in this film as well. And also the people that they are with, you know what I'm saying, that has them as their slave, because like I said, human trafficking is something dealing with slavery as well, and also inhumane. And also how the kids, how they kind of just threw them in like containers, like cargo containers that you see on ships. It shows you that that's how they get that's where they keep the kids hidden, so other people won't find them as well, and it's not just spreading them out across the planet. Interesting that they do show that aspect of it. The other thing that I gotta say about this film is pretty much the risk that Tim was willing to take. He then like resigned from his job to like one that was his mission to rescue the kids. Amazing. That's something that shows you human character and like the risk and the rewards of like having to go against the grain, even though your boss is like, yo, you need to come back, it's not working. You're like, no, I resign, I'm out of here. He had a ride or die wife. It does have one religious tone, and that didn't really bother me. I was like, okay, cool, we get it. They're all God's children, of course. That was the only religious tone. And for this, to be Angel Studio, my very first film from them watch, this was a very deep film, like a very you know what I'm saying, in a way where you're like, man, this is something like either you're gonna watch this once or twice. But for it to be a 2-hour film, I was highly impressed by that because it didn't even feel like 2 hours for me. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. And I was like, man, this is a 2-hour film. Like I just, it didn't affect me where it's like, oh man, I didn't think it was gonna be 2 hours. But otherwise, had a decent score for the film. It did show the gritty reality of how these kids were treated and everything. But let me give you my rating. So, for Sound of Freedom, I gotta give this an A+. This was a flawless film. Like I said, it showed you the gritty reality of the human traffickers, the characters that you come across within the film. Overall, I was blown away. Like, I'd never seen a human trafficking film quite like this one. This is probably the most controversial films of 2023, but probably one of the best ones. Like, you know, even though it's not the other typical genres for movies, but you guys tell me in the comments, have you seen Sound of Freedom? Have a wonderful day, guys.